All right. Economics question, let's go. He says, so here's my question. The economy in Axie Infinity relies on SLP. The community's overall SLP earning potential grows exponentially. For example, it requires 1,800 SLP to breed a team of 3 Axies. In 2 months, that team of Axies can earn roughly 8,400 SLP. That SLP can then be sold on the market, where it is used to produce more Axies, which will produce more SLP, and so on. With that being the case, the number of players wouldn't just have to grow. It would have to grow exponentially. The player base would have to grow exponentially in order to burn all of the SLP being generated. This can snowball into an economic crash extremely quickly, like in a matter of months. Now, the community has the capacity to generate a ton of SLP. Have you considered this? Yes. If so, how are you thinking about the information as an investor? I invested $8,600. That's a great question. Good job thinking it through. Okay, so I think in the beginning, your premise is wrong. You're starting off asserting that the economy in Axie Infinity relies on SLP. It does not. SLP is a fine factor as part of the economy. The Axie Infinity economy is based around AXS. There's 270 million of those that exist. However, they have a 5-year distribution rate over a period of time. As of now, 55 million are in circulation. 12 million have already returned to the treasury account. So every time you breed, it's not simply a matter of, okay, we exhaust 1,800 SLP, and therefore there's another Axie. There is an entirely different bottleneck, which is AXS tokens. So there used to be a burn rate of 1, then it was a burn rate of 2, now it's a burn rate of 4. But the burn, it's not actually a burn. It is you spend for AXS, and then that goes to a treasury, right? So that goes over to the treasury, and that's just kept forever. AXS cannot be created or destroyed. There's only a 5-year release plan. Now, the Axie Infinity economy is actually based around the AXS governance token, because that's going to give you treasury rights, both in staking returns and in treasury payouts. If you look at the treasury wallet right now, the treasury wallet contains 21,000 wrapped Ethereum. Wrapped Ethereum is the exact equivalent of depositing Ethereum. So we're actually looking at a $60 million US dollar valuation of a treasury account, which is then the property of those that hold the AXS token. Okay? So we can't say the economy of the Axie Infinity relies on SLP. It simply does not. It is actually a fine part of the economy, but what happens, and let me keep actually dissecting this. So you're using the 8,400 SLP as a generation. You're saying, okay, it costs 1,800, but then in 2 months, it generates 8,400 SLP. We've got some wrong thinking on this as well. Because first of all, why not just say how much it generates in a year? Why not just say how much it generates in 10 years or in 1 week? We have to actually tie it to what creates it, which is human effort. So then what you have is SLP is only created based off of this many amount of man hours, right? So now it's totally different. If you look at, oh, every time I spend $1, it creates $3. Oh, well, I'll just spend $3 more. Now I have $9. This is crazy. This isn't sustainable. This is nuts. But actually, if you look at it as scaling on the backs of every man hour invested in the digital economy, it changes your thinking entirely. And I think that's important. So then your actual question, right? So I was just breaking down the premise first. With that being the case, the number of players wouldn't just have to grow, it would have to grow exponentially. So that thinking is, it would have to grow exponentially in order for SLP, the second ERC20 token, to continue to climb. Why? Why would that have to happen? This is not a Ponzi scheme. It's not a pyramid scheme. It is not an artificially inflated, endlessly rising stock market. You have a free market. You have a free market between the players, where if they don't want SLP, or some 10,000 people are all deciding to be exceptional breeders or PvPers that are going to have a lot of alternate teams, they might start wanting SLP. We don't know or care how many people want SLP or don't want SLP. So the idea that the players would have to grow exponentially is false. That's under the circumstance of I don't ever want to see the price of what I just paid be less than what I paid, right? It's shallow thinking. We have to not worry about it because it doesn't freaking matter. So the price is going to go up and down all the time and in huge swings. 1 to like 100x. You're going to see some absurd things all over the place. Okay, maybe not X. I meant 100%. And why doesn't that matter? Because that's my argument, that it simply doesn't matter. And your argument is, we better figure this out because we don't ever want it to go down. We have to have so many new players at all times. It's unsustainable. It can't happen. This exponential growth is impossible. My point is, it literally doesn't matter because when SLP simply comes down, we know how the market forces go. We know how free markets operate. When the prices go down, more people use it. And more people use it, it will essentially have a continuous growth effect of Axies that will be more available to PvP. And if anything, there'll be less of a barrier entry and there'll actually be more players. And then guess what? When there are more players, they're going to want to have better Axies that will want to be worked up in the PvP ranking. And then you'll start seeing it rise again after that. But all the same, remember what I said originally, that the Axie economy does not rely on SLP at all. Or like it's not its sole factor. It's based around the AXS token. And the AXS token gives you rights to the treasury. The treasury account grows at 4.25% of every transaction that ever occurs. So it doesn't make the slightest difference if there's not another new Axie player tomorrow or not, because SLP will crash. And then when it crashes, there's more breeding. And then guess what? There's more players and the people come in, they're buying and selling at all times. Now we have the actual wealth of the game that is owned by the players always increasing, regardless of the rest. That is the economic standpoint to understand. So at that point, the rest of the stuff, it just simply doesn't matter. It's like your biology book of there's more hares, therefore there's more foxes. There's so many foxes, well, there aren't any hares left because they ate all the hares. There's not a lot of hares anymore, so there aren't that many foxes anymore. Now that there aren't any foxes, there's a bunch of hares again. There's a lot of hares. Oh, now there are going to be more foxes. That's the nature of the market. We just don't have to worry about it at all. Last point is at the end of this year, there's going to be Lunacia, which is a whole land development. They're going to have SDKs. The people that create different setups will actually be able to build their own games on top of land and sell those as individual NFTs. This Hearthstone card game right now, where SLP can only be spent through breeding, is a temporary aspect of the economy. And they're still moving levers to find good fits. SLP will likely have other uses in the future, and we know Axies will have other uses in the future, including being released so we can have a non-inflationary constant rise of Axies. So overall, as an investor, don't invest more than you can lose. Make sure that you've paid off all of your debts in life. Make sure you have a 6-month emergency fund of all of your expenses covered and a savings account that you don't touch. Make sure that you have standard safe investments, like the S&P 500. You're investing 15% of your weekly paychecks there. And then after that, have a great time. And invest in creative, exciting things. Enjoy the speculation and the rides. And I think you're in a good position to gain a lot in this brand new technology. Wow, that's amazing talking and explaining. Thank you.